Good evening, everyone, and welcome for today's session. Let us start with any questions if you have from your previous session or any residual thought you have. You want to bring it forward, please do so, and we'll pick up the threads from there. Sir, is it necessary to have a name of every form? So, Shudipto is asking this, do we need to have name for every form? We were discussing last day the nature of this Jagat, that the experiential world that we live in. And one of the qualities of this or attributes of this experiential world is that it has to have any object in this experiential world will have a name and will have a name and form. Like you will have a form to the object and that form will be associated with a name. So that is a must. Without this, how it projects this experiential world will fail. So as an intellectual exercise, I challenge that if any one of you could find one thing that has no form or no name, air, we do not see it, it is pretty much without a form, but it has a name. We recognize air as air even though it is formless. Ether, supposedly one of the Panch Mahabhut, it is the lightest and the most subtle objects around where it is absolute emptiness. Even emptiness has a name. Yeah. Sudipto, you are saying something.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay.
For better understanding.
Like I've
And
always wondered about.
no, Akash is in Sanskrit is Akash and ether is our English term for it.
But tell me something then, sir. What is the difference between vacuum and, because Akash is supposed to have other elements and also I thought like vacuum or shunya is more of ether.
No, but the dark matter that you cannot see actually, through
Yes.
which light passes. And if any object is held in that matter, that gets projected in because of the light hitting it, that space between two planets will be more akin to ether. But ether is not something that you could see. It is an object which is so subtle that we are unable to experience it even though we are made of it. So like you can experience Jal, Agni, Vayu and these four elements, you cannot actually experience or see the ether form.
Right, sir. So when we offer in our pujas panchbhutas, what is it then we offer for the fifth symbolically for this ether? Do we not offer this in pujas? Like
I don't know this one because I am not
right.
at all.
No, I was just very intrigued, yes,
Oh,
because
it
it's
is
very
true. Okay, this brings me to another point. Vedant, our Upanishads had actually two bifurcation. One is the philosophical part of it, another is the ritualistic part of it. Those when how we do our weddings or how we do our ceremonies related to death, everything is detailed out in Upanishads. So it is not random. So you have two bifurcations. One deals with the philosophy and one deals with the rituals. And what you are asking me is of the ritualistic part, which I have no knowledge.
no problem, sir.
No,
I was
I'm
trying to make
saying,
sense of what I can see and
I'm
how
sure
it is.
symbolically we offer something, but I am not aware of what we offer.
No, no, ঠিক আছে. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, sir.
Yeah.
A little diversion, but
No,
thank you.
this is something that you should know because this is like this comes out starkly where Nachiketa is asking Yamraj about death and what happens to you after death. Nachiketa wants his father to be returned. And he is arguing with Yam that why cannot he be returned? And then Yamraj explains him all about death. And that is what you have Kathopanishad. So Kathopanishad has the philosophy of death, reincarnation, and what you need to do as a progeny to make sure that your departed ones are taken care of. That's why you have where you have from the last rites to the Shad, everything is listed there. There you have distinct divisions there. Now, coming back to any other residual thought you have vis-a-vis what we have discussed so far. Okay, very quickly, what we have discussed so far, we have had 7 sessions up till now. Today is our 8th session. We have built upon our understanding, and through these discussions we have tried to understand the kind of world we are being presented in our Vedas and Upanishads. All Oriental philosophies, whether it is Sankhya, Jain, Buddhism, Shaivism, or any philosophy, I do not remember all the names. So many philosophies have originated from this land, and all philosophies have one question: how to reduce and minimize human suffering to a point where it is null and we do not experience suffering ever. So we are trying to find out a solution, where the solutions being given Vedas. How do I remove human suffering? How do I remove my own suffering is the ultimate question that I'm trying to answer. Now, if I want to understand that, there are two levels in which I have to understand this. One is, how do I reduce the suffering in this transactional world, in this world called the Jagat, the experiential world that I am living in, whose reality is real but dependent. So that is something that I want to understand and clarify from within, so that my life on this planet is fruitful, is fulfilling, is less of suffering. So things like, if I eat right, I will be healthy. If I exercise, I will be healthy. If I behave well with others, if I give them time, if I give them patient hearing, if I am patient with others, then my social connections will be stronger. I will have human relations. If I snap at people, if I am irritable, if I manipulate, then I will not have human connections. This distinction of having a good body, good mind, good finances, good relationships is required, and there are methods to achieve physical, mental, financial, social wellness. So that is one layer of suffering that we want to overcome. The second layer of suffering that we want to overcome is that kind of suffering which, now, one more point about this worldly suffering. Worldly suffering cannot be annihilated for once and all. If you think finances will give you security, then finances, some people have this anxiety that no amount of finances are enough. And sometimes it can happen that you can be left without finances and you have to struggle to get finances. Sometimes you think relationships will give you happiness, and they give you happiness for a time being, and then again they don't give you happiness. Again, you have to work on it again. So it's like a cycle. So everything in this world and all solutions of this world will be temporary. You do not have permanent solutions here in this world. Anything that you want to sort out of this world will be transient, because that's the nature of this world, that everything that you experience, you get here, is impermanent, is exposed to change. If anything is exposed to change, then our solutions to our worldly sufferings are also exposed to change. So that's one set of solutions which we are applying, and then we are experiencing some other form of suffering and again trying to find out a solution for that. So that's one. Now, all philosophies will help you answer this question as well, because if you cannot answer the question of worldly sufferings, you cannot actually be at peace with yourself. So you have to, at some level, find out a method of behavior, a pattern of behavior, actions that will help you live a life which will give you stability in this world as much as possible, or will help you deal with the impermanence of this world. So changes will happen and you will build a mind which will remain steady in spite of the changes. So that's what we are trying to do for the world. Now, if you want to end this suffering and you want to go beyond the suffering of this world, then you have to find out permanent solutions. You need to understand three things. You need to understand what you are experiencing and where you come from, or what are you in reality. So what you are right now and how you are structured is the anatomy of the Jiva that we studied. We tried to understand that this Jiva that I'm experiencing is not just my bone and my flesh and my blood and my muscle, my brain. I am more than that. And why the need to explain? Because I need to explain reincarnation. I need to explain my predisposed nature. I need to explain why some people are born lucky, why some people are born with good health, why some people are born with good families, and some people are not, why some people experience distress, some people do not. So these things need to be explained. And you also need to explain three states of existence. One is waking up, like the awake state of being, your dream state, and your sleep state where you have no dreams. So those three also need to be explained. And that explanation and the detailing of it was done through the Panchkoshas and the Sharir Traya. So that was the anatomy of Jiva. Then we discussed anatomy or the characteristics of the Jagat. That is what we were doing last day. I will just quickly run down some of the things that we discussed. We discussed for Jagat that it is impermanent or anitya, that it is, no matter what, you will find that everything of this world is will experience change, whether it is our body, whether it is our emotion, whether it is our age, whether it is our skin, whether it is our any bodily features is exposed to change. Even if I do yoga, even if I eat 100% right, there is this gentleman who is doing this experiment so that he does not age, and he's very much in the news. He does so many things, goes through tests, eats very specific things, yet he will also change, and yet he will also die. No matter whoever we are going to experience change. And similarly, anything that we think is permanent will be exposed to change. So anitya. Then nam roop, that was the second characteristic or attribute of this Jagat. Nam roop, everything that I can name and everything that I can identify with a form will be of this world. So Nam Roop is without a name and a form, this whole world that we experience will fall apart. So that is like the defining outermost periphery of this world, that it has a form and it has a name. Then anything of this world will have gunas. You will have sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. These are three attributes. All objects of this world are characterized into these three. If something is inert, heavy, prone to inertia, then that is tamasic. If something is prone to activity, taste, flavor, some kind of action, some kind of trait, rajasic. And things that are light, easy, helps you move towards subtlety of mind, of thought, of body, that is sattvic. So these are the three gunas, and everything in this world can be categorized in either of these forms. So sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Then you have cause and effect. That's how the law of causality and law of karma comes in, that if you do something, then there will be a response. That action of yours will impact you in some way or the other. That is how cause and effect works. It is not that you are punished with your actions. Generally, we use karma in a way that karma hits you back, as if there is a punishment being doled out to you because of your actions. But actually, it doesn't work like that. Karma is essentially, you have done something that has cut a groove in your mind, in your brain. If you do that enough number of times, that becomes a trait that is passed on from one lifetime to other. If an action or a thought has disturbed you, till you mitigate that disturbance in the real world, that disturbance remains as a groove, and that needs to be settled either now or later, because your behavior is dependent on the grooves that are available to you. And that's how your predisposition of character is determined. Your behavior creates patterns in your brain in this world, and these patterns, when they are carried forward, they go forward as samskaras, present you with opportunities or environments that will help you act according to those samskaras. And that's how the karma plays out in this world. is your mithya. Jagat is also identified as mithya. Mithya in Advaita Vedanta, Vedanta is defined as dependent reality. So this world will not exist if you do not have the pure consciousness or the Brahman. So the existence of this world is real only because there is a Brahman, there is pure consciousness, then you see this world. So this is a list of things that define the Jagat that we experience. This is what we have discussed, and of the Jiva, anatomy or the attributes of the Jagat. This leads us to behavioral changes. Like we were talking about suffering, how to reduce suffering on this planet, on this world experience, or that is what you are listed out as, say, Yam Niyam, or that is what is listed out as attributes of, say, for example, it is written as attributes of a devotee. In Buddhism, it is written as the Eightfold Path. So there is enough focus given on how to end suffering in this world. So, say, for example, if you look at this world from the lens of guna, that you have tamasic, rajasic, sattvic, and your behavior should move from tamasic, rajasic towards sattvic. So through that, and you try to move towards sattvic behavior slowly and slowly, whether it is your food, whether it is your emotions, whether it is your work, whether it is your motivation, you want to take it from tamasic towards sattvic, that is subtlety. So in terms of koshas, it will be from Anandamaya kosha to Anandamaya kosha. You want to move towards subtlety. If you look at the world from the lens of karma and cause and effect, then you want to rely upon Gita. That, all right, if I want to reduce the suffering in this transactional world, one of the ways I can do is by becoming a karma yogi. Karma yogi is someone who does everything with 100% devotion, yet he is not attached to the results that will follow. If somebody can master that, then Gita says that you will overcome the suffering of this transactional world because you have developed an attitude which will help you stay calm and composed, whatever the results may be. Now, whatever the results may be, this can be looked at from the lens of impermanence. Your effort, you cannot control everything that is going around because everything keeps changing. So no matter how tightly you want to control an environment, things change. And the outcome of your efforts cannot be predetermined. If outcome of your results cannot be predetermined and you are okay with that, then you will be absolutely calm and tranquil. Situations are changing, you are putting in the effort, but if you are attached to the outcome, then you, because impermanence is there and you are trying to predefine the outcome in spite of knowing that the whole world is in a flux. That's how the world order is. Now, if somebody is too attached to the outcome that he or she wants, then you are preparing yourself for pain. If you can just meditate on the idea of impermanence, then everything else is not required. Then you are good to go because you are dealing directly with the root cause of problem. Because we think things are going to be permanent, we want to hold on to things that we like and avoid things that we don't like, thinking that we can actually do that. But things are prone to change. We cannot actually control this kind of and dislike, and we cannot only experience things that we like. If somebody can see the world through the prism of impermanence, that is great. If you can see the world as dependent reality, then you are good because you know this is real. Things can go good or bad, but there is a larger reality. You are reminded of that. This world is transactional and yet real, dependently real. You want to live a good moral life here, not stating that I will only work for the highest good, not worry about it. Then we also discussed that the world is a ground for learning. If the world is ground for learning, what do you learn? You learn to refine your samskaras, the grooves that push you towards tamas. You want to refine those grooves. You want to add new grooves, change your behavior so that you have new samskaras, more subtle. Samskaras rooted in tamas, you want to rewire yourself so that you are rooted in sattvic nature. You can modify yourself or bring about peace to your worldly affairs by holding on to one thought you want. Okay, so you pick up attributes of the Jagat and you think that, all right, this attribute I want to take up and explore, and I want to see how I am positioned against this attribute of this of the world. And you can follow that path. And hence, because the world can be analyzed through the lens of multiple attributes, you have multiple paths to experience peace of mind. You can master any one and you will feel that you are in a very good position. Did I make sense? Questions, comments, any thoughts? Because I think if I'm going deep into the anatomy of self, if I'm going deep into the anatomy or the attributes of Jagat, they converge right here. So this is like the convergence of the last 3 sessions we had.
I might not be framing it rightly, but I'll try. You know how we should not worry about the circumstance, like the result, because there are multiple factors at play, and our effort and intention is just one of the million things. You said that everything is impermanent also. If you're not living our present with a sense of some structure, then our future may be more difficult. I understand the consequences, what will happen. But let's say I don't eat right and I don't work out. I will have a more difficult 60. Of course, I can fall off a cliff and I can be paraplegic. That is not in my hands. But if you do some work and you do see some benefit, which you think should be taking place, isn't it still something we should keep in mind? That's my only question. Like you're saying, we should not be attached.
The dependent reality is about this only, that say you eat right, it takes discipline to eat right. Impermanence says that even if perfectly, there will be a possibility that you age, you may fall sick, there may be a possibility that the outcome of you eating right may not exactly be what you want. But it never says that eating right or living casually is the way forward, because things are not entirely in my hands. Things that are in my hands, I should do all of that, because that's how I build a peaceful, tranquil mind. If I don't do that, then I'm not at ease at all. If in spite of doing all these things, I may experience suffering. That's the law of impermanence. If you're not doing the basics right, then your quality of life goes down and you are directly responsible for it. And then your learning will be that be disciplined. No,
You're being aware of the potential, but still knowing that not to be attached. Like now,
there is no excuse for us being callous. That's not what is being asked or being suggested here. Any other thought on anything that I have said so far? Just give me 1 second. I'll try to summarize again. We discussed the anatomy of self in detail to understand several concepts. We discussed different attributes of the world or the Jagat, different attributes of this experiential world. Why it becomes important is you pick up any attribute, it defines the experiential world in a way that the self could pick up that attribute and would want or could understand it and model its behavior so that it is in sync with the understanding of what the world is. My actions, my thoughts could be reflective of the true attribute of this world. If I know that world is exposed to change and it is impermanent by nature, that's the fundamental reality of this experiential world, and I behave in a manner that or I think in a way that I will experience permanent things in this life, or nothing will change in my in in whatever I experience, everything will be just the same, then I am setting myself up for disappointment. If I am someone who meditates and reflects on impermanence, then I can be at ease because of change. I will become a more adaptable person. Similarly, if I am looking at world through the lens of karma, cause and effect, then I know that my actions will have a repercussion on my self. There is something that will I will get impacted because of my own actions, and my motivation behind those actions, everything matters to me. So this I need to understand. Even this understanding that action and motivation behind the action both are important comes from the fact that I know that there are different koshas, and I am operating at mind, ego, or I am intellect, or my chit, what level I am operating at, or I am operating with my prana, my thought, my emotions. I have different koshas. The subtlety of my mm, thought process and my action is validated by the structure. There is a structure of my being, there is a attribute of the world, and the interaction has to be fruitful if I am cognizant of the facts that are available to me. One of the ways suffering originates is if my actions are born out of ignorance of what? Ignorance of the attributes of this world. What are the attributes of this world? Impermanence, the gunas that we discussed, the cause and effect that we talked about. It is dependent in reality. So if my actions are born out of knowledge or wisdom of how this world is structured, then I will not be so disappointed in the output that I get. So that's the summation of what we have discussed in Jeev Jagat and how they come together. Now, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to interrupt. Okay. Because I am only sharing one slice of information at a time. If there is a question that comes up, maybe we expand to other point of views as well. Now, let us come to the last part of the trilogy, Jeev, Jagat, and the Brahman. Now, what is Brahman? Brahman is the primary three attributes of the Brahman is Sat, Chit, and Anand. So Sat, Chit, and Anand will be defined as pure infinite existence. That is Sat. Chit is pure consciousness, which is self-revealing. And Anand is pure joy or bliss or a certain kind of fullness that cannot be experienced in this world. So Sat, Chit, and Anand, pure infinite existence, that one which is without any beginning or without any end, one which is the consciousness is limitless, it is ever existing, it is not bound by time, matter, energy, nothing. So pure consciousness or Brahman is the substratum of Brahman itself, of course, the Jeev and the Jagat. So everything that you have here, the underlying fundamental truth behind this is the pure consciousness or the Brahman that we are trying to explore. Now, to answer our original question, that how do we overcome all forms of suffering? When an individual, the Jiva, can understand or experience himself or can realize himself that he is nothing but the Brahman himself, then he or she becomes limitless. Then there is no difference between the self and the Brahman actually. So all the attributes that are of the Brahman will be yours as well. Then Anand, infinite, pure existence, and you do not have a name for it cannot be defined. It is not bound by namru. It is not exposed to the gunas that we are this world is exposed to, and it cannot be broken up or started. This is something which we have no idea about. This fundamental reality we can only imagine. We have neither experience nor the capacity to put in words beyond this what I have just said. Any thoughts on Brahman, or your preconceived thought? One small detail I would want to give those who are new to this language or new to this concepts. We use the word Brahma as the deity Brahma. We use the word Brahman for the Pandit and the Brahman who is there doing puja for us. And we are talking about the Brahman or the pure consciousness. This word Brahman is different from Brahma, the deity, or the Brahman, the pujari that you see. So this is the word. Okay, so Brahman. Now, Brahman, as I mentioned, is totally independent. So there are 12 qualities of Brahman. Now I will present you one by one. Some of it may be repetitive. So one, it is absolutely independent, and everything else is dependent on the Brahman itself. Second is, it is, as I mentioned, that the existence never disappears, and you cannot have a starting point to this existence. This is without a beginning or an end. So if something has a beginning or an end, then it is of the world. If it is beyond beginning and the end, then it is Brahman. Okay. Now, it is self-revealing awareness. Now, self-revealing awareness is, as the name suggests, self-revealing. One is I'm experiencing that I'm awake. I'm experiencing that I'm sleeping. I'm experiencing that I'm dreaming. So these three states, I'm aware and I'm experiencing these. So the consciousness that can experience these three states is something beyond these three states. And that is what you call the pure consciousness, or the consciousness, one that can be aware of everything and can experience itself as well. So self-revealing awareness. So it can experience what is external in it, or which is born out of it, or what is projected of it, and it can experience itself as well. So that is where the idea of drishta comes in, that it sees. So anything that can be seen is outside of you. So the self, which identifies with limited consciousness, when it truly realizes who he is or who she is, then this distinction of the seen and the seer also goes away, because you know that what you are seeing as an external is also a part of you. So Brahman as the Chit is consciousness which can exist without any other object. It does not need any other object to exist. That's how I can describe pure consciousness. And then you have pure bliss. Pure bliss will also signify one that does not experience suffering. So suffering is of the world. When you have suffering, you have suffering because of duality or multiplicity. When there is singularity, there is no suffering. All the suffering that I experience of is of the world, because the world has duality, multiplicity. One that has no multiplicity or no duality will not experience any suffering. So if today I realize who am I, then that will be the end of my suffering. No matter what my samskaras are, no matter what my karma is, no matter what I have done in this life, whether I am the lowest of low being or a highest of high being, whether I know the Upanishads or I don't know the Upanishads, whether I live a pious life or whether I don't live a pious life, whether it is morally right, whether I manipulate others, whether I'm true to my profession, nothing will matter if I realize rather who am I. So if that happens, then everything else is moved. Why this is important? Because we have this thing that we need to continuously improve from grossness to subtlety. If I keep moving towards that, if I improve my behavior, if I improve my thought process, if I go deep if I can steady my mind. These are all tools for better understanding of the world and better understanding of the self. But if by any reason or by deep seated motivation you can bypass all this and directly reach the state where you are desirous of liberation and such a burning desire for liberation that you want to know yourself in the here and now, if that comes to you somehow, then nothing else matters. No samskaras, no karma, no behavior, nothing matters. And you are presented with your own reality. And once you are presented with your own reality, everything is just a projection and there is no suffering then. Do I really need to take the long winding path? Probably, because we are all working out things for ourselves and we really don't believe that we are ready for liberation. We want to experience this world in a better way. Till that desire is there, we will keep experiencing this world. And then there will be a dawn of wisdom that this world does not matter. And then we will look for liberation. But if I could look for liberation in the here and now, nothing stops you. No, Brahma is nirguna. So nirguna without attributes. So it is infinite without attributes. So it has no colors. It does not change. It has no qualities that could fluctuate. And because it is without any of the three gunas, nirgun, it will not experience any change. Anything that has these, if any object is can be of tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic in nature, then it is part of the three guna structure of this world. And if you are part of this structure of this world, then you will experience change. If you are nirguna, then you will not have any changes that will happen to you. If you are nirakar, which is formless, then also there will be no change happening to you. So Brahman is without any gun or without any form. Now, let us come to another important concept, which is the concept of Maya. Any thoughts or questions so far? No thoughts on Brahman?
I think it was a scam if somebody could be whatever they want to and have that sudden moment when you said that wherever
Yes.
you are in life, if you just can somehow crack that code of that, everything could absolve you of any karma, any samskaras. I felt that was a big scam if somebody can crack the code.
Have you heard the story of Angulimal?
No, sir.
So he was someone who would kill people and hang their fingers, Angulimal. And he was a dreaded dacoit. And Buddha meets him and he reasons out with him that what you are doing is incorrect. And then he has this burning desire of liberation and he works towards his liberation. Then you have the story of Valmiki, where he was questioned by a sadhu that, are you sure that your family members will share the burden? And then he says that, let me go and check. And he finds the answer in negative, that his family members will not share his burden. And then he also changes. So there are very few examples, but the desire for liberation is not, if it could come about so easy, then we could have all achieved liberation in the here and now. Who does not like the idea of liberation? But to cut through my association with this world, I need a spark of wisdom without which you cannot cut through. So there has to be something that happens to you or some realization that will help you disidentify yourself with this world. And that does not happen so easily or so frequently. So if you are someone who could really disidentify or de-identify yourself with this world, then you are qualified. But till you are identified with this world, with this form, with the idea that you are a man or a woman, with the idea of your profession, of your status as a daughter or a son or a sibling or a husband or a wife or an Indian or whoever, whatever you identify with, till that is there, it is very difficult.
Mm. It is a wormhole if you can crack it. It's rare. That is like one in a gazillion, probably.
but that's a possibility. If today I had this burning desire, then I will be able to experience everything in the here and now. There are different ways you can progress towards final realization. There are two methods. One is if your guru blesses you and he deals with your samskaras, or you just realize the Shaiva within you in the here and now. So one day we will discuss the difference between Shaivism and Vedanta and how they are similar, but they are this idea that if you can realize yourself as who you are, or that burning desire has a place in progress.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, then Brahman or consciousness, we can say this is a collective consciousness. In physical world, through our mind, we are discriminating and identified ourselves with mundane things. But in consciousness, that is one. There is
Yeah.
no discrimination.
Okay, I will just take 2 minutes to explain what you have just said. See, collective consciousness, this word is used in Buddhism, where they don't have any space for individual Atman, like self that we have been talking about, is non existent. So, there they think all our minds are connected and we experience it individually, but the collective consciousness works. So, if I am suffering, then you cannot be happy in totality. There will be some part of you which will be suffering, no matter how subtle that suffering is, because I am suffering. Because our minds are connected and interdependent, or collective consciousness plays out in the real world according to Buddhism. Here, what is being said is that pure consciousness is the substratum of everything. Underneath everything, whether it is individual soul or the Jagat or the pure Brahman itself, the underlying phenomena is your pure consciousness. The derivative of this is that I am no different than you or anyone else in this planet, because I am merely a projection of the pure consciousness, and so are you, and so is every other sentient being. But the term collective consciousness is used in Buddhism to explain this idea that we are interdependent. While the word that is being used here is as the substratum, which is that we are all but a projection of the pure consciousness. And once we realize that, yes, we will recognize every other person and every other object of this world as a mere projection. I'll take one more attempt to distinguish between these two. See, collective consciousness allows for some bit of individuality, that I am experiencing the world and you are also experiencing the world. Because our consciousness is connected, our actions impact each other. So that's how collective consciousness works. Pure consciousness is non dual. So there is no duality of you and me and being collective. So if I realize myself as the pure Brahman, for me, there will be no duality. So then my actions will not impact yours or your actions impacting me. This thing will not happen at all. So collective consciousness is still working at the worldly level, while pure Brahman is taking you beyond this world and is just talking about the singularity of existence. Collective consciousness allows room for duality, while pure Brahman has no room for duality. Could I make myself a little clear?
Yes, sir.
If not, we can take it up again next week.
Okay, sir.
It sounds very cool, sir. Like they've approached the same thing in a different way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they are talking.
Yeah, because one, there is no collective self for you to like worry about according to this, right? Because
Yes.
singularity is where
There is
you're.
clarity. Yes.
And Buddha is trying, they are trying to just basically help us understand the world in, probably for people who can't understand the abstraction
No,
of
these
a
are two
unified self.
We have not gone to the abstract discussion of Buddhism yet.
No, but I'm just saying on this.
Buddhism has emptiness.
This was
Yes,
what? Collective consciousness?
independent consciousness. So in Buddhism, they have these attributes of the world, of which impermanence is one, interdependence and interconnectedness is second. And then you have the emptiness. So what you are talking about right now is interdependence. Yes, Abir?
Yeah, I just had a query on this. Does Brahman exist in Buddhism?
No.
Okay. There's no concept of Brahman in Buddhism.
They have gone deep into the layering of consciousness. If we do a comparative study, we can map out things. And I can tell you how they are similar and at what points they differ. They have also created a very subtle layered structure of consciousness that needs to be understood.
Probably it's a topic for a separate discussion.
We have discussed Buddhism, but we have never gone deep into emptiness. Probably after this, we could pick it up. All right, thank you. Our discussion on Maya remains. We'll start with Maya next week. Thank you, everyone.